All right, first, thank y'all for being here. Obviously, this is a first for us, having a postseason press conference. We've never had one before. I think looking at what we have ahead and what has happened, I think this was an idea I had. I felt like with the transition to Conference USA, with the season, just everything going on, that this was a opportune time to kind of communicate some things and kind of what we're doing moving forward, just a lot of things going on. So I felt like that was appropriate. Doesn't mean this will be a standard for every year. Every year's a little different, and we'll kind of navigate that as we go. So kind of recap the season a little bit. I met with the seniors Monday after the last game, and really I usually ask several questions. The one this year for them was, tell me your thoughts on the season. And so I'm going to kind of recap the season with their thoughts a little bit, because I think it's important that you hear from the young men that represent this program. So, I think going into the season, I think there was a lot of accolades out there. I think there was a lot of talk of rankings and preseason this, preseason that, and I think each young man in their different ways would tell you that they probably read way too much into that and probably spent more time than they should in their press clippings early on in the season. And, and we had some things happen early on that were, maybe not indicative of what we would like to be here from a football program before the season started. But needless to say, we go into the first game, and, the guys are excited about playing, and we don't play well. And when I say we, I'm talking about all of us. I'm not we don't play well. We don't play well enough to win, and I think that was that was a lot for our guys in the locker room after the game. It was a lot, just because the expectations of what was going to happen and all that, and it didn't. And then you got to regroup, and you're getting ready to go play Cincinnati, and we didn't play. I thought at times we played hard, but we didn't play particularly well in that game. But they're a better football team than we are. And then you're sitting there 0-2 for the first time in the history of the program. And, and I think though we had some guys that have played, we had enough that haven't and didn't know how to handle adversity. And I think as this thing goes along, listening to the seniors, some of our immaturity showed up, and some of our lack of ability to handle adversity showed up. We come home, we play Wofford, we find a way to win. We still have yet to play Kennesaw State football. And I think that's important, because that's how I've always judged us, is not necessarily by wins and losses, but by how we play the game. And those of you that have been around us for a long time know we play the game a certain way when we're playing at our best. And we've always been able to respond to a loss or to a challenge. And unique to this season, we really struggled with that at times. We find a way to beat Wofford. It was much harder than it should have been, but we did. And then we go to Jacksonville State, and I think that was another one that the kids talked a lot about, that was a tough one to take. You got a chance to win the game at the end, and then you go to overtime, we don't win. And I'm in the locker room now, and I'm like, hey, guys, everything's still ahead of us, still in front of us. We got everything's still out there. But you could tell even at that moment that you could sense again, I go back to a little bit of our immaturity, not able to handle adversity. Here we are in something different we've never been in before, and we didn't really respond and handle all that the right way. And as the season rolls along, I think we get into a big conference game at home, and there's a lot going on that week. But we're playing Central Arkansas at home, and it's a big game because everything, again, is still in front of us. Everything. Like, our goals are still there. Everything's still there. And we didn't show up. We didn't show up, and we didn't play well. And this is our kids saying this, not Coach Bohannon. Like and nobody could tell you why, like exactly what it was. And I think, maintaining focus, not letting outside influences have an impact on what the task at hand is. A lot of different things you could say had that. But at the end of the day, and guys, ultimately I'm in charge, so it's all back on my shoulders, 100%. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of synopsis of, and see, here in the past, we've always been able to respond in those situations. Doesn't mean we've always won, but we've always been able to respond. And this year was as abnormal as any year we've ever had here. like nothing was normal. I come in after the game and I'm talking about, tough times don't last, tough people do. Adversity illuminates character. Like we're gonna have to, because this is one of those moments. Like the conference stuff, you almost had to put aside at that time. You had to put your goals aside, really for the first time in the history of this program. You had to put all aside, and we had to refocus. Came back in, we had some new things we set out to do, whether it was studying tape, certain amount of time, and part of that was the kids learn how to prepare better because we struggle with that. Two, it was a bit of a distraction because there was just all the chatter going on behind the scenes. You knew it, you could sense it, whether it was I'm going to blame this person or that person instead of just saying, hey, we got to go be better. Coach Bohannon's got to be better, and we did regroup and we went on a little bit of a run there. We got 3 games in a row, non-conference games. None of those were conference games. They were all non-conference games. The culmination was the UT Martin game, which was the game of the year that I would consider Kennesaw State football. Like, we showed up, we had a little something about us, had a little swagger about us, and we went and played. It wasn't perfect, but I thought we played, and it was fun, and it was more like us. And you're like, all right, well, we found a way to win some games. We're on a little bit of a roll. And you come back and you look up and you're right back in the conference race. So I almost was hesitant to even bring it back up because sometimes I felt like the pressure of of maybe winning the conference of those things was more than this team could bear at times. Because you go back to the Central Arc game, we didn't show up, we didn't play well, and that was a big conference game. So I did because I had to, because it was part of what we're doing. I didn't overcook it. I just said, hey guys, this thing's wide open. I said we got to take care of business, and then we'll go from there. And we go out. We play really poorly on offense. We did not play our best on defense. We had played really good the week before. We didn't go respond to an opportunity to go take control of something. And I say we again. And it was disappointing. I mean, and not only disappointing, but frustrating. And these are the seniors talking, right? I'm just putting all this together. These are the guys coming in saying this is, and then it's, I think along the way, a lot of the seniors said, Coach, there was a buy-in problem probably partway through the season. There were some guys that weren't completely bought into what we're doing. And when adversity hits and you have some of that, it grows, right? And so we get ready to go in the last game, and I know on Monday I said, hey, I just want guys that want to be here, and they're all in. Let's go get on the bus, whomever you are. Let's just go fight our tails off for this last game. And we had 21 guys dressed out on defense for the last game, 21. And I'll say this, we didn't play great, but those guys were all in. They were out there trying to play hard. And I'm not saying it was good, but they were out there trying to play hard, and that's all I've ever asked of them, is to go play hard, be the best version of yourself you can be. And, we didn't win the game, but I thought we fought, and we were in the game to the end. Kind of the way the season went, if you want to know the truth. We kick an onside kick, and it goes 8 yards. That's the season, right? Like, it was as far from normal for here as we've ever had, and disappointing and frustrating and not the standard of Kennesaw State football. Ultimately, I am responsible for all of that, all that being said, and fully recognize that. So disappointing was a word. I think each senior, when they came in, coach disappointed, didn't have any idea this was going to happen. We're used to winning here. And I think that summed some of it up. When it didn't go well, things kind of went a little sideways in different ways. And I think there's certain areas that we didn't perform as well as we had in the past. There's certain areas you need to step up and didn't do that. And there's just things that it just didn't go well. And disappointing, frustrating. And I think the seniors felt that way. I felt bad for them, those that invested a lot here, some that come back for another year. But, that's kind of part of it. And, that's the way it goes. So definitely not the standard here. Definitely frustrating, definitely disappointing. I think definitely will be a learning experience, I know for me, and something that I can promise you we will do everything in our power to not happen again. We may get beat, but we need to get beat playing Kennesaw State football, not get beat not playing hard, not playing tough, not having great attitude, not playing with great effort. The things that make us who we are, well, we were not this year, and that's on me again, and disappointing and frustrating to say the least. So met with those guys. Right now, that's the season. We are heavy into recruiting right now. Obviously, with the announcement of Conference USA back during the season, we had to restructure a little bit of our recruiting and how we go about our business. Obviously, you're going up a level. You got to recruit a different kid from an athletic standpoint, not necessarily we need kids that are all into what we're doing. More importantly than anything. So we don't have really we couldn't broaden our high school base because of the nature where we are. We have gone down the junior college route a little bit to help supplement a little bit. We'd like to sign 25 young men in this class. If we can get to 30, so be it. And that may be in December. That may be in February. I don't know. That may be at the end of May. I don't know when all this is going to unfold, but we're going to revamp our roster. As you make a huge step into Conference USA, we're going to revamp our roster. Also, we got to make sure the ones that are here are all in and bought into whatever we're doing and however we're doing it. You can talk about the standard, but you got to act on it. Effort, attitude, and toughness is fun to break down on, but you got to act on it. And we have more talking than acting right now. And we got to go have some action. And so we're going to go recruit, see if we can sign a class. We're going to come back in January when school starts. Obviously, hopefully be able to bring in some mid-years. Don't know how many, but we're going to try to do that. And we're going to go to work. And the message is going to be pretty simple. Either you're all in or you're not. And it doesn't matter. You got to be all in to whatever's asked of you, whenever it's asked of you, as we transition into Conference USA, because that's what's required here to be successful. And definitely looking at last year was not what Kennesaw State football is meant to be. So from a recruiting standpoint, that's kind of the direction we're going right now. Obviously, we're trying to grow. I think on the lines of scrimmage is the biggest place we're going to try to grow up front on offensive line and defensive line. I think that's the areas you see that the biggest difference in without compromising who we are from an athleticism standpoint. Skill guys are skill guys. Obviously the longer you can get, the better in any position, but we have to upgrade in every area we possibly can and continue to get the buy-in and things done the correct way. So that's kind of where we are from a recruiting standpoint. And when we come back for our current team, kind of where they'll be moving into the off-season as we get ready for the off-season and developing that mindset that has given us a chance to be successful here that for some reason we lost sight of a little bit last year. So that's a recap a little bit of where we are from a recruiting standpoint. Moving forward, there's a lot of other stuff, but I think this is probably as good a time as any to open it up for questions that you guys might have.
Coach, just following up on what you said, I know that the injury report going into the last game was fairly lengthy, but only having 21 guys dressed on defense, what were the other reasons? Because I know you've got there were more defensive players than there were on the injury report.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I'm going to go back to what I said. We need 100% buy-in, and we need everybody to be all into what we're doing here. Period. If you're not all in, if you're not bought in 100%, and that was a problem. Point blank, that was a problem.
The defense did not perform the way a normal Kennesaw State defense performed all year. I'm guessing some of that had to do with the buy-in, but it just seems like it hasn't been the same since Mr. Newberry left. And I'm just wondering, is there going to be any kind of overhaul or coaching changes, or what is the game plan going forward for to address what happened this year?
So every year, regardless of, because the good and the bad of this program is we end on a loss every year here. All right? Now, this year was not the norm. But you think about it, you go to the playoffs, there's only one team that's going to end on a good note, right? That's just the reality of it. Every year, every facet of this program is evaluated by me, every bit of it. Whether we win 10 games, whether we won 6 games, whether we won 5 games. Obviously, when you don't win as many, everybody, that's but every aspect of what we do, how we do it, every year, you step back away from it for a little bit, because when you're in the middle of it, it's just you're trying to find a way to have a great practice so you can find a way to go win a game. So every bit of the program is being evaluated: offense, defense, special teams. We all as coaches are evaluated. I think when you go look at defensively, I think there's a couple things I look at. I think obviously there's things we can do better from a coaching standpoint. There's no staff changes on the horizon right now, John, to answer that question. I think there's always things we can do better. I think we look at ourselves first, and I can tell you this: on most of the Mondays we went in there after a loss, we talked about ourselves first before we even talked about what you didn't miss a tackle or miss assignment. But I think defensively, when you look at maybe comparison a year ago to this year, we struggled at linebacker all year. We struggled. I think in the secondary we had some things. Some guys had to grow up. I do think they made some progress as the season went on, and you saw that a little bit as we got into the to the UT Martin game. I think it was 5 turnovers in that game. So I think those were some things that were positive. The guys up front had to carry us. They had to carry us, and because that was the depth of our football team. But defensively, that group had to carry us, and when they would play well, it made a huge difference. I think at times, honestly, on defense, and our seniors said this. So sometimes they were so worried about what the other side was doing, they forgot to do theirs. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's like maybe they get a turnover and we turn it right back over on offense, and they get and at the end of the day, all you can do is go do your job. And again, I go back to, we got caught up in more stuff this year that didn't have anything to do with just going out and doing our job than we ever have. And that was just an example. So I think that was a huge part. And some of the stuff went on. I think our linebacker play was very inconsistent all year, in and out. And then you had 3 guys a year ago that all were seniors that we talked about from day one. Some guys were going to have to step up, and whether it was injuries or guys not, it wasn't very good. And if you don't have that consistently, that's going to be a challenge now. So I think those are some things on defense that came up, and at times we played really well, but we were just inconsistent. Like, we looked like ourselves, and all of a sudden maybe something didn't go our way, and all of a sudden you could just see it. Like, we wasn't playing hard, and when they did, we were good enough, but it just wasn't enough. It was so inconsistent.
Also, evaluating, it seems like this year and last year, the injury reports were longer than they'd ever been around here. Is there anything that you are looking at doing differently, strength and conditioning, to try and limit that going forward?
Yeah, every year it's a conversation piece of how to do that, and we've I limited some of the conditioning just this year to try to keep their legs a little bit in a better place. Like, we try stuff every year, and we'll continue to do that. I think you're always trying to get depth because it's a long year. And this year, more so than before, we played a lot of football. You talk about overtime games. There was very seldom a game where, like you had 6 minutes to go in the game other than getting your butt beat, that you could actually go play other guys. It just didn't happen. And all that takes its toll as the season goes on. Now, I think there were some other factors why the injury report was as long as it was, but I do think there was some things that happened injury-wise, and we got to go evaluate that and look at it. It's across the board. Like you get all kinds of different stuff, so you're trying to figure out how do you, if it's just one thing, okay, let's go redo that and see, or let's see if we can go, and we'll go look at all of it and see if we can find different ways to get us where we're in a little better shape going into the back half of the season. But it's that the last couple of years has been a little bit of a challenge, John, to be honest with you. And it's something we got to work on. I think the best answer I can get, we got to get more depth. Like, you know what I mean? We got to build up our roster. We got to get more depth because, the injuries seem to happen more and more each year, and we do less probably now than we did early on. As far as some of the physicality and some of the stuff we've tried to do some things a little differently here and there. Some of it we're going to have to get back to because, we're not playing like we're capable of. That's a great question.
So I know we talked a lot about the negative kind of takeaways. What were some positive things you took away from the year, just player-wise or as a coach learning?
Well, I think I think the big thing is we did regroup and went on a little 3-game win streak that was encouraging. You know what I mean? Like, all right, we all the stuff that happened, because it was a lot of negative, right? All the adversity, all that. We found a way to regroup, and we found a way to win some games and do it back to back, and then we went on the road and beat a ranked team, which was big for us, and I wish we could have finished that out the right way, but I think that was a positive. I think some young guys grew up in some different areas. I think, however you want to look at this, we learned a lot. And I think, unfortunately, sometimes winning is taken for granted. And around here, we've won a lot of ball games. And I think it's easy to assume, even as a player, because we roll out that black and gold, that we're just supposed to win. It doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? You have to go work and earn those opportunities to go win. And I think, that's a learning thing. And sometimes these setbacks are, opportunities to learn and grow. And I think that could be a huge positive. I'll let you know in a year or two, right? But that could be the biggest positive out of all of this, if handled the right way. And we got a lot going on with this transition and everything, but at the end of the day, that all we know we got to deal with, but more importantly, we got to deal with us being the best version of ourselves we can be and playing Kennesaw State football, and the things you hear about, the standard and effort, attitude, and toughness. And so I think it could be a real positive out of that. I saw some guys do some good things throughout the year. Thought some guys played hard, did some good stuff. So it wasn't a – listen, we have high standards around here. So when you don't meet those, it's probably going to come across negative, and that's just the reality of it. But there was some positives inside that. But I think the biggest thing is can we take this, can we learn from it, and can we say, all right, this ain't happening again, and not me, our kids, because in the day, I've told them many times, guys, I love y'all. I'm gonna do everything. We're gonna pour more energy in this place, in this program, than anybody else. But it'll be what they want it to be. You know what I mean? And I do think there's a core group that didn't like this. And hopefully they'll approach the offseason in that manner to go get it fixed.
Coach, you mentioned in your opening statement some seniors were coming back for a COVID year. Could you let us know who those were? So
right now, there's 3 guys that have said they're coming back. Jonathan Murphy, Isaac Foster, and Markeith Montgomery. Those 3 guys. There could be a possibility of a couple others I'm not going to name right now. Obviously, we're just in the midst of some of these conversations. But those 3 guys have said they're coming back. Xavier Shepard is not coming back. He's got a year left and a COVID year. But he's moved on to some other stuff academically. But he is not coming back.
Speaking of Markeith Montgomery, had a record year here at Kennesaw State. Were you surprised when he was left off the All-ASUN team?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think there's any other kid that's played as good. Well, obviously, he played as good as he ever played here. But, I mean, week in, week out, you know, I think he finished like third in the Defensive Player of the Year category, but didn't make all conference. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. I didn't get that at all. I mean, I thought he played as good as anybody on our team, and maybe as good as anybody in a while here on the back end. Not just this year, but period. He played really well, and he prepared himself, and he was ready to go every week. And I talked about this throughout the year a little bit, but yeah, I didn't get that, and sometimes that's the way the voting stuff goes. And but he deserved it. He deserved to be he deserved all of it. He had a heck of a year, and I'm glad he's coming back because he's not only a heck of a player, but he's a heck of a person. He believes what we're doing, and he's all in.
Lastly, for me, looking specifically at the quarterback position from this last year, what was your evaluation of just that position in general?
Yeah, I think it was like a lot of things here. You know, this year it was very inconsistent, and you know, not, you know, it's like a lot of stuff is inconsistent, and you know, the quarterback always is going to shoulder the blame when it comes to losing. And that's part of it, but I didn't think we played well, especially if you want to compare to last year, which I know is maybe sometimes unfair, but it is what it is. I didn't think we played as well as we could have, and I didn't think we really played well offensively, you know, much of the year, to be honest with you. I think we were off all year, and it just that we could never get in rhythm very often. You know, and you could point over a bunch of different directions on that. But I think it's like a lot of things, Michael. It's just inconsistent. You know, it could definitely be better for sure.
Coach, turning attention more to Conference USA, you said that you needed to go ahead and start recruiting another type of kid. The fact that you are moving to an FBS conference, has that, you know, when you've gone to talk to coaches and players and all that, how has that affected your recruiting? And can you get a little bit more specific on the type of kids now, you know, the type of athlete, the type of people that you want to get in to make the move?
Yeah, so FBS, just those three letters get you in conversations that you've never been in before. So when you go FBS, that gets you in a conversation with a recruit that you normally couldn't get in. So we're in a we're in a lot of different conversations that maybe we wouldn't have been in before with young men that we're trying to recruit right now, which is positive. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to get them here and the whole 9 yards of all that. But the conversation is definitely different, and we kind of thought, you know, we've known that because, you know, we as an FCS school we've had trouble beating FBS no matter what. You know, and so that's been a positive, and that's with coaches, players, the whole 9 yards. As soon as the announcement was made, you know, I think you could tell that and sense that, and that's been a real positive. I think when you talk about the move to FBS, the things that I think you first and foremost look at is your lines of scrimmage, right? And so, you know, like on the offensive line. Obviously, we want to get more length and get bigger, right? And on the defensive line, the same way, without compromising really who we are, because we got to have guys that are athletic and can move. I think on the offensive line, you start really with the offensive tackles. We got to get bigger, period. And we've tried to do that a little bit, but we got to. We don't have a choice. And really, that's where it starts. I think, you know, the guards, we got to be bigger in center, but especially at tackle. Because of the things they're going to have to do when it comes to pass protection, when it comes to, you know, the stuff we're going to ask them to do. I think you got to do that, and I think it's the same on the defensive line. I think it starts there with length. I don't know that it's necessarily a different type of kid, John, meaning we are who we are. We're not changing necessarily who we are as a program and a culture. We're going to a different level. So I think it requires us to recruit a bigger kid in some spots. Offensively, it's going to be different. We're going to make some changes on what we do offensively. So, you know, I talked about getting bigger up front. We're going to move from our predominant under center option. We're going to now move to the gun and take our principles from under center and move them to the gun. And it'll be a gun option, which is going to afford us now the ability to recruit. And we have some in the program, some tight end body types with some bigger offensive linemen. And also it's going to afford you the ability to recruit a true running back. Not necessarily a two-back, but a true running back that's going to be a downhill, hard-nosed guy that can also, can go 80 with it and can run outside as well. It's a true running back. So with that and getting a little bigger up front and recruiting more tight end body types, these things are going to help a little bit with what happened a little bit in the season with some of the things that made it challenging for us. So I made this decision offensively in the open week. Obviously, we're not prepared to do all this in the open week, but because this personnel, the question you asked with the personnel kind of ties into all this, John. It's the reason I'm going into it now. But so, and now you have a true running back, you got tight ends. We're going to try to get a little bigger, but we're not going to compromise. We're still going to be an option-based team out of the gun with an RPO component, because that's stuff we've done. We feel like we can do with our athletic quarterbacks that can throw. That doesn't change recruiting them. We'll still have a slot receiver. We probably won't recruit quite as many of those guys as we maybe have in the past. Again, some of the blocking and things that went on made it challenging. Outside guys are still going to be dynamic guys that can stretch the field and run routes. And this will give us the ability to do, I think, some different stuff to help us. The rule change had an impact, no question. The pursuit was a challenge this year. It wasn't just blocking on the perimeter. The pursuit and some different things became a challenge. That was open week. And then you get the Conference USA news, several weeks later. And to me, this was an opportunity that we needed to go take advantage of. And even before the Conference USA, I was already down this road. And this is, again, these are my thoughts. Obviously I talk with our coaching staff. So this is something we're going to do. We've already made that decision. Obviously, we really couldn't do it in the season. Doesn't change who we are. We're going to run the ball. We need to be tough. We need to be hard-nosed. That doesn't change. We're just changing how we do some things to help us. At the end of the day, whatever we can do, right? And obviously, I'm in charge, so what we do offensively, to put ourselves in a position to be successful and win ball games and win conferences and win bowl games, that's what we want to do. And, so I think making this change is going to be very helpful, though it'll be a little bit of a, it'll take a little bit for us to navigate because we want it to be us. We're going to pull from all these different places, right? Like, that do different stuff, and we're going to make it our own. But it's a lot of the principles we've had. We're just going to back up in the gun. And, when you got a back running straight downhill that he has more options, it slows people down a little bit on how fast they can pursue. And that'll help us tremendously as well. And then, you add the RPO component with the full option component. I mean, I watched Southern Cal. I think they were playing Notre Dame the other night. And, I'm not into the Heisman stuff, but Caleb Williams is pretty sporty. And he ran the midline out of the gun and read the inside interior D lineman and pulled it and scored from right down about the 10-yard line. A lot of people are doing this stuff in different ways and how they put it together. That makes sense. I watch Kansas do a lot of stuff. Coastal Carolina, all these different places do different stuff. What we're doing is going to pull all this together and make it our own, and keep our philosophy kind of what it's been. But it'll afford us to do some things and help us in a lot of different areas. I think it's going to help us in recruiting. I think it's going to help us, be able to do some different stuff that we haven't been able to do before. So we're excited about that piece of it. Again, it doesn't change who we are really, but I think that's important, for everybody to kind of know that's the direction we're going.
So with those changes to the offense, how long do you think it'll take to adapt to that, and what are the obstacles you expect?
I don't know how long. I think it'll depend a little bit. I think we'll have to see how it goes. I think we do have some components in place right now. You got to find that running back. We need probably 2 or 3 of them, if you want to know the truth. And I think the big thing is up front, getting a group of guys up front. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you do. You got to have the guys up front. So, so I don't know how long. I think the adaptation will be quicker than maybe people think. What it all looks like next year, we'll see, right? So it'll be interesting to see what it all looks like. I'm excited about it. We got a full off season to really go attack this and work on it, and we'll find some things along the way that we'll be able to adapt to a little bit, and it'll take a little bit for it to become our own. One, because of us in our personnel change, will take a little time. I think all that's going to mesh, and like I said, the timing is really in a lot of ways about as good as it can be, and so. So we'll see. I don't have the magic answer on timeline or what it's all going to look like. I know this. This program's built on effort, attitude, and toughness. This program's built on winning, and those things. And we're gonna go attack those things the same way to get the same results.
Looking ahead, you've got, I believe it's 4 non-conference opponents scheduled for next year, and then it's like 3 and then 5. How do you go about adjusting the schedule? Because I would assume some of those contracts are going to be canceled just out of necessity. So what is the focus when it comes to scheduling going forward? Yeah,
so obviously you want to have we're going to have some form of an FCS schedule next year. What all that looks like, I don't know right now, John, to be honest with you. Obviously it's a transition year for us, but it's a year for us to go get better. It's a year for us to prepare to go into Conference USA and to do the things that we would like to do here. But more importantly, we got to get back to being who we are. 5 and 6 is not acceptable here. And we got to get back to being who we are and playing the caliber football we're capable of and winning ball games. And that's got to be the mindset right now, regardless of who or when or what time. Right now, it don't matter. Because we didn't get it done, and we got to go figure out a way to get it done. And I think that's honestly the most important thing. What all the schedule actually looks like, honestly, I won't know till it's out. But we got to go attack these things and go get better at what we're doing. And obviously, we got some areas we're going to change some things and try to help ourselves a little bit. But we're still going to go attack it no different than we would any other year. And I think. Again, I go back to your question earlier about what are we learning from this and what positive can we take out of this. We're going to find out, because we got to get back doing things the way we do them here.
What I was getting at is what happens with all those games that have already been scheduled? Are we, getting out of those so we can schedule new people, or? No, the schedule's the schedule right now, as far as I know. The schedule, as far as getting out of games, the schedule's the schedule, as far as I know. To my knowledge, we haven't gotten out of any games or getting out of any games that I know of. Not to my knowledge. So the schedule's the schedule, as far as I know, as of today. Nothing's been put out there yet other than our non-conference opponents, as far as that goes. But none of that's changed that I know of, as far as getting out of games. Is that what you're asking? Well, I think it's 2025, you have 5 non-conference games that are already scheduled against all FCS programs.
Yes. Now, moving forward,
that's
what I'm
getting.
Yes, there'll be some changes moving forward. I thought you were talking about this coming year. No. Yeah, so moving forward, obviously some of that stuff will change as we go when you get a conference schedule. Obviously, we want to have, we'd like to, moving forward, we'd like to still have a money game. As we go to Conference USA, we still like to have an FCS opponent as we go to Conference USA, and then really outside of that, depending on how many conference games you have at that time, you might have another FBS opponent and then the conference games, right? So I think that some of that stuff will definitely look different. I'm sorry, I didn't know exactly what you're asking me.
Coach, to maybe put a wrap on the offense, you had said that there were some inconsistencies in evaluating the offense last year. You're going to make some adjustments to the offense moving ahead to take advantage of opportunities. And a lot of the conversations that we had in these Tuesday press conferences and post games, you talked about the new cut blocking rule from this past year and how it maybe hindered things that KSU could do offensively. Now that you've had 11 games to look back and assess it on a full body season of work, how do you think that rule change really affected KSU football this year? And looking ahead to what you're going to do in the offense and the adjustments that you're going to make, how does that help overcome the areas where KSU was hindered this past year?
So this year, I mean, it had an impact. I mean, I think you have to, but it shouldn't have had the impact it did. Like we could have played so much better, you know. And when we were all dialed in and everybody was doing their job, we were able to move the football. You know, I don't. That's not the reason. That's just a piece of it, if that makes sense. And so it does have an impact because I mean, when you can get guys on the ground, it's hard for them to make plays. You know, you're just not able to do that as much as we've been able to do before. But I don't think it was the end all be all to the season and offensively this year. I do think it was a component of it. So the change had to do with that. It had to do with a lot of things. You know, moving forward, just you know, I think when you talk about the pursuit, you know, I said this earlier. When you go to the gun and you got a one back that has multiple options of where to hit it, people just can't fly to one direction. You know, they're going to have to maintain their gaps and be a little more sound, and that'll slow that down. We'll still be able to do some things option-wise that we've done before, you know, and find ways to get the ball in the perimeter, which has always been big for us here. And I think on the offensive line, it'll provide you to get a little bigger, and maybe they don't have to make some of the perfect blocks if your back has a little more ability to make cuts in different places. Whether it's a zone scheme or a gap scheme, you know, it doesn't really matter. It all ends up being some of the same stuff. So I think there's a lot of areas that'll help. You're getting a tight end body in as well to help a little bit, whether that be perimeter blocking or in your inside run game, whatever that might be. You know, so I think there's some things there that'll definitely help some of that stuff. And then again, I think it's going to help in recruiting too. You know, this day and age, you know, more people are in the gun than they are under center. We won't get away from being under center here. You know, in short yardage and goal line, it always drives me crazy when you snap the ball back, you know, 6 yards when you got a yard to go. So we'll still have that component. That's not going away. But, you know, we're going to be more predominant in the gun and do some things from a little further away, which has its pros and cons as we go, just like anything you do. But I think those are things that'll help us. And the perimeter game will be a little different, which will help us as well.
Well, I'm excited to hear about the fact of still going under center in short yardage. I share that with you, Coach. Looking ahead here to Conference USA, what are the benefits you see of moving up to FBS?
Yeah, so I think, you know, I don't know that you're ever ready for stuff, you know. It's like, you know, sometimes people talk about getting married or having kids. I don't know that you're ever fully ready for everything, right? But I think here in our market, we had an opportunity to take advantage of. And we got a lot of work to do, a ton of work to do. You know, we need everybody's support right now. We need everybody all in. We need fans. We need community. We need faculty. We need staff. We need students. We need money. We need fundraising. I mean, it is what it is. We need all these things to go do this. But what this move is going to give us, not just athletics, but this university, is exposure that we've never gotten here. You know, and you're going to be in, you know, major networks when there's not a lot of games on at different times of year, where you're going to be, you know, you're going to be it, and people are going to hear and see about Kennesaw State. You know, and I think that this is not just a football thing. This is a university thing that's going to be huge, and I think it's great for us. I think it's an awesome opportunity, you know, and I think our location and our school, and I think some success we've had played a part in this opportunity. You know, obviously location is huge, but I think it's a great opportunity for our university. You know, and I think it's going to be awesome. We got a lot of work to do, you know, and it's going to be challenging, but you know, we ain't never shied away from a challenge around here. You know, we started this thing back, you know, in you know, 14 our practice year and 15 our first season from scratch, and we're just doing this in a different way, you know, and I think we're going to, you know, kind of I won't call it a reset, but we're going to go back and and get back to the basics and know what we got going forward. And we want to go this thing full speed ahead now. And, we're not going to try to ease into anything. We want to go do this, go do it the right way. So I think, Nolan, to answer your question, I think just a great opportunity for exposure for this university and our program. I think it's going to be awesome.
You just mentioned a lot of different groups there, Coach. How critical is fan support attendance moving up to FBS?
It's huge. You know what I mean? It's huge. It's always been big, but it's important. Support, being here. Obviously, you're going to have some games. You want people to see what kind of place this is and the environment that can be created by the community and the university and everybody involved. And obviously this is a big step from where we've been financially. And so I think there's a lot of things that come into consideration here. And obviously we want everybody's help in all this. And and this is not just a football thing or an athlete. This is a university thing. This is a community thing. This is who we are in the Kennesaw area, right? This is all of us. It's a huge step, and the exposure is not just Kennesaw State University. I mean, this exposure is going to go outside of that in this area, and I think it's going to be beneficial for everybody. So, as always, we need everybody. We need everybody's support, everybody's help. Being here, just buying a ticket and come to the game is going to help support the programs, and we need it to go recruit the right kind of kids to come here and win and be successful and do it the right way. All that stuff's going to be really important.
And you did mention about playing games when no one else is playing and having that national exposure on there. That really matters at the FBS ranks because people watch and people start to talk, right?
Absolutely. I think, it's the exposure that's maybe harder to get on a Saturday because of all the other, games going on, but you got a chance to do that. It's a different routine. It's different. I think John asked about it or somebody asked about it earlier in the year, but, I think the Tuesday, Wednesday, or whatever nights they got slated, for Conference USA, I think you're going to be in the spotlight now, and I think that's going to be huge for our university. I think that's going to be awesome. So they're going to see that KS, for 3.5 hours, when there's really nothing else football-wise going on TV, and I think that's going to be huge for all of us.
Last thing for me, Coach. Despite the trying year, we just celebrated Thanksgiving. What are you thankful for at this time of year and this past year?
Yeah, so I'll be honest with you. This has been the toughest year by far in our time here. Challenging in just so many different ways. Hard to explain. Just challenging. And some of it's just the way it is, right? Things happen. But I'm extremely thankful to be here. I'm extremely thankful to be the head coach at Kennesaw State University football program. Through the good and the bad and all that comes with it sometimes. More importantly, I'm thankful for my family who finds a way to support a not so happy camper most of the year. My wife, Melanie, catches the brunt of that, and I do a pretty good job. I've gotten better, but it is what it is, right? And, my two boys who are on the team, and their conversations are different because they're on the team. My daughter, Brooke Anna, and then my parents who obviously travel a good bit to the games. Family's huge. Through thick or thin, they're there for you, right? Win or lose, get your butt beat, you win big, whatever it is. I think family at the end of the day is important, and I'm thankful for our football family here and all that it brings. Even when I'm mad as the devil and upset with the way we did things or that we got to go get it fixed, I think our kids will tell you I walk in that locker room, win or lose, and I tell them I love them and I'm proud of them after every game. And so there's a lot to be thankful for, Nolan. I think, and this is, just being honest. Some days you gotta kick yourself out of the jar because you're so consumed with trying to be the best you can be at something, whatever that is, and it don't work out every day. And I'm pissed off as I'll get out when it don't work out, and I'm angry because I want it to be great. But I think you do have to step back and realize how many good things are going on. In my world, it's like this. It's tunnel vision. It's Tuesday practice. And y'all get tired of hearing that. But that's how I see things. And our focus is, I spend a lot of time on this program and invested a lot, and we'll continue to do that. But I think with all that being said, there's, you step back and take a deep breath, which the Lord knows I need to. There's so many good things out there that sometimes you get lost in the weeds a little bit of all the other stuff. And there's so many things you have to be thankful for. Family's number one. Having a job, having an opportunity to impact young men in a positive way through really tough times. So there's a lot there, and I'm unpacking more than you asked for. But might as well just throw it all on the table. But it's it's a good place, and but I'm really appreciative of my family and those around that no matter what are there, and supportive. We got great staff. We got great people that try to do things the right way. We're not perfect either. We don't do everything perfect. We're human too. But we got people that want to help young men develop, and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for all that goes with that. So a lot of good stuff to be thankful for. So, and I'm sitting here and I'm having a press conference today. You know what I mean? And that's it. Thankful for that. Some people, might not be able to do that, might not be in a position to do that, or whatever it might be. So there's a lot of good stuff out there. Sometimes it gets covered up with all the other, and it's easy in this world today, especially today, to get caught up in all the other stuff. And like I said, you got to kick yourself out of the jar some days. All right, appreciate y'all.